welcome to 40 Top Virtual Series. I'm your host, Sarah Payne Scarborough with the Alliance for the Economic Development of Southern West Virginia. We are thrilled to be teaming up today with the West Virginia Collegiate Recovery Network and their virtual series called Recovery Matters to host like-minded individuals that have really this entrepreneur mindset and that they are really making a true improvement impact in the Mountain State. So I hope that you enjoy these interviews because they will both be educational and entertaining, and most of all, inspirational as we understand their road to recovery, how they support those in recovery, and how they want to help everyone get a second, third, fourth chance to live a life that is full and to make a really positive impact on our state. So with that, I will turn it over to my co-host, Susie Mullins, who is the project director of the West Virginia Collegiate Recovery Network. Susie?
Thanks, Sarah. So yes, I'm Susie. I'm with the Collegiate Recovery Network, and we're excited to be joining up with the 40 Top series to talk about and highlight entrepreneurs and people in recovery in West Virginia. So we have with us today Cheryl Laws, who is the founder and CEO of Pollen, and Holly McCraw, who is the Chief Operating Officer for Pollen. So welcome.
Well, we're so excited to have both of you join us and share your stories to help inspire others to maybe seek help, seek support. And also, maybe we have some budding entrepreneurs out there that just need a little extra support and push to say, hey, I really can do this. And so that's where I really want to start on this interview. And I'll start with you, Cheryl. Can you explain how you got here? Can you explain Pollen, how it came to be, a little bit about your organization and what you're trying to accomplish?
Sure. So I started out when I got a short-term stint at Kanawha Drug Court, and it inspired me to realize that drug addiction wasn't a choice, that it was a coping mechanism for ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. So that really interested me. At that point, I had never finished college myself for my own drug use when I was a young person. And so I went back to college at 42. And I got a Regents Bachelor of Arts. And then as I was in there, I started studying sociology, and I wanted to understand why people behave the way they behave. And then that sparked an interest in Appalachia. And so then I graduated and went to ASU in Boone, North Carolina. And I got my master's in Appalachian Studies. And so as I was researching, I researched across United States, Canada, and Brazil for best practices in not just recovery, but in reintegration strategies. And along the way, I identified that monotony of life, returning to the same socioeconomic status, and returning to an unsafe living environment are the three reasons that 85% of people in recovery relapse within the first year. So through that research, I created, my thesis was my business plan for Pollen. And what I did was just took the facts and the research and then started creating a program that would address those three things, and see if we couldn't get a better longevity or some more time in recovery for people, especially women with substance use disorder. So I came back about 5 years ago. I graduated and moved back to Charleston and started with a Pollen Family Services. We tried to help women in before they lost custody of their children. And then that butted into a camp that we did for at-risk youth that then trickled into the cafe coming available. So the cafe was our first social enterprise. So Pollen is the is the umbrella, the social umbrella, the nonprofit umbrella. And then what we do is we provide treatment for the underlying causes of addiction at Appalachian Behavioral Healthcare, which we've already done the ribbon cutting, but we don't have, our girls haven't come through yet, but that should be happening hopefully by August 1st. We'll take in the first participants. And then from that, we create social enterprises where they get job training. So that's where Cafe Appalachia is. And then in the end of 3 years, we're still finalizing everything, but in 3 years, we will have we'll have the treatment center. They'll go through Appalachian Behavioral Healthcare. We'll have Cafe Appalachia Catering Kitchen, Cafe Appalachia Express, and then we have Cultivate, and that's our agricultural program, portion of the program, because we grow our own food for the cafes as well.
Wow, that's pretty phenomenal. Do you ever sleep?
I mean, I was in it for a long time. It was a couple years, it was just me, but Holly came on board. It'll be it was 2 years in February, but more than two, about 2.5 years she's been with me, and we grew significantly when Holly came on board. We like to joke that I'm the dreamer, she's the doer, which I take a little offense because I do too, even though that rhymed. But it really is that. Holly is the policies and procedures, and she makes it function. And I'm like, you know what we're doing next? That's kind of my role. So, but with her skill set, it really allowed me to grow Pollinate way bigger than what I had originally intended to do. So I'm very thankful for her, and her insight, from a recovery standpoint, is significant, something that I didn't have. So
yeah, and Holly, we'd like to bring you into the conversation now, and would you like to share your story of recovery and how you got connected with Cheryl and maybe your vision for Pollinate?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually came to Charleston to a sober living home, and throughout being there and working a real life job and doing the things sober and trying to practice principles and everything that I did, I was able to develop myself in my career to increase my socioeconomic status, like Cheryl has said in her research. So Cheryl and I actually had a mutual connection through a participant in her program that had brought me in and said, you really need to meet Cheryl. So I came in and I sat down and I talked to Cheryl one day, and the things that she said were actual lived experiences, maybe not necessarily directly of mine, but of my friends in recovery, or obstacles that we've seen and we live being in recovery. And it just made sense. And I knew that my higher power took me through my trials and my recovery to come here and help her build this. So I fully believe in the program. It's a huge passion of mine. And I'm just really happy to be here and be able to help her get this thing going and make it really successful.
So my first question is for Holly, and I'm curious about how you handle the boundaries between working in recovery and your own personal recovery.
Absolutely. I think that boundaries is it's a huge thing working in this type of environment. It's really important for me to have my own values and my own principles that keeps my own recovery solid. I keep a really good network of people that I talk to, keep my defects in check, all those kind of things. But as far as the boundaries, I learned early on that my path to recovery is not everybody's path to recovery, and what worked for me may not work for others. So it's really important, and it was a huge piece to the puzzle building our programming here at ABHC, is that we meet the women that come into our program where they're at, and they get their own weigh in on what is their treatment, how do they want to pursue their recovery, and what do they think works best for them. So I can share my experience, but ultimately we're going to leave it in the girls' hands to say, this is how I think I would be most successful. So we really focus on person-centered care here and let them pursue their own recovery how they choose.
Cheryl, what were some of the barriers that you faced in starting your first business and bringing this vision that you had to life, maybe starting with the cafe?
I would say mostly it was piecing the money together. I wrote a bunch of little grants. We did the cafe on $48,000, but my son and I did all of the work except for the plumbing and the electric, and I had an uncle that did the electric work for free. So it took us 9 months because it was just the two of us doing it. But I would say financially, I learned a lot. I learned you get what you pay for. That's been the biggest lesson in all of this for me is I have a tendency to go cheap because, and it's not that I'm a cheap person. It's more when you don't have the money, I'm a doer. So like I had $48,000. So I did it in $48,000. Now I turned around and paid Mullins to come and do it all over again 2 years later because I went, I did it more inexpensive to begin with, but I would say just lessons like that, not knowing what you're doing. I've had 2 other businesses, but 3 other, but 2 were day spas and another was a nurse recruiting company. So I had never been an actual, developer until this. So that there were a lot of learning curves in the beginning, but I just found my way through them. And, if I'm not anything, I'm tenacious. For sure. So I would say that's about it, really. Currently, we have the cafe. There are 2 full-time employees there. We have a Vista that helps, 2 Vistas actually, that help at the cafe. There's Holly and I are the only administrative positions, which is really hard. I mean, we're growing. When we started, the 2019, our 990 was like $87,000. And then last year it was 200 and some thousand. And this year it was almost 700,000. Next year it's going to be over $1 million. Like we have seriously grown significantly. So for Holly and I to wear all the hats, I mean, Holly is a CEO or a COO, but she's also a CFO. She does all of the handling of, right now we're handling over $1 million in grant funds.
When you look at entrepreneurs and when you even look at organizations, we always wear too many hats, right?
Mm-hmm.
Too many things in our portfolio. I think everyone struggles with the capacity, but especially with an organization like yours, 2 admins and as your budget continues, those are all great challenges to have, but they're still challenges because you have to adapt and you have to grow too.
There's been lots of obstacles that have stood in our way, from whether it's funding or crews or staffing, multiple things, but the key is not to give up. Cheryl and I say it all the time, if there was some other people would have threw in the hat by now. And it's been a mission, and it has been a lifestyle building this business. It's not just a little hobby that we do on the side. Like, it's eat, sleep, breathe it for now. We want to make sure that it's successful. So just the key is not giving up, and there's always a solution out there. You just have to be willing to find it.
You see individuals that, they go to work, they clock in, they clock out, they come home, and they're missing that sense of community, that sense of service, that sense of passion in their lives. And to be able to kind of capture that. And it's very fruitful for all aspects of your life.
I feel like one of my missions is when I'm done building this is to kind of streamline this, to make it easier from a legislative level to the bureaucracy of it, to the systems that are in place. It should be easier to open and work in this field with it being a pandemic and the money that is coming into our state. So I think that is the biggest obstacle. It's, one organization that you have to get a license for, they don't know that the other organization is asking you for the same thing. It's just, it's those kind of things that really make it super difficult to navigate through. Holly and I, we got a grant that we're going to put Pollinate in a kit. And that's actually our long-term goal for Pollinate, is so other entrepreneurs that are interested in this they would make a donation to Pollinate for that kit. But it would have everything that we've done and all the things that we've learned and ironed out and forged the way for. So other communities across West Virginia and the United States, and, you know, even, I mean, wherever, could purchase that and know what to do and how to do it, or maybe just take a piece of it. You know, maybe they don't do the whole thing the way that we did, but that is our goal, and that's where Pollinate came from. The other thing I wanted to touch on too is it's Holly and I always like to talk about it. It's a holistic approach. It's taking the person. It's not good enough to just do treatment and you just leave it there and then they leave, and then it's what do they do then? It's how to function in the world. And then you go to sober living houses and they're out there. I think what the system needs to do, and I think that's kind of what we're trying to show, is from start to finish, and let's see what success we have in having okay, I did detox, where do I go? I'm going straight to treatment. Okay, I'm getting job training, I'm going straight to a job, straight to sober living housing, and I'm going to keep getting my therapy in a trickle down as much as I need it or as little as I need it for 18 months. And let's see what that looks like.
I had a follow-up question. Could you walk us through that 18-month experience that you have in mind?
So they will, we have partnered with St. Francis Detox, and as well as we'll use Highland is our initial how we'll take referrals. I mean, someone can call off the streets if they would like, but they have to, our prerequisite is a detox program. And then they'll come into the program. We've set it up in 26 weeks. So the first 6 weeks, they will do really nothing but work on those underlying causes. We are a 3.5, 3.1 level of care. So the first 6 weeks, they'll be in the first 5 weeks, they'll be in the 3.5 level of care. And that's 17 hours of group individual therapy a week. In that includes an agro-counseling program that I'm creating that allows us to teach them mindful gardening and getting them acclimated into our agricultural portion of our program. And then at week 6, they will start rotating through the social enterprises. And they will also start a curriculum of basic life skills that will include adult roles and responsibilities, effective communication, health, wellness, nutrition, ACEs reduction, and finance. And then at week 19, they'll learn to do a resume in their effective communication, basic life skills in that module. And then they'll start interviewing with our social or our community hiring partners, like Holly was saying, and then we'll find them a fit. And then at week 20, they'll start working their full-time job. And then at that point, they can move into, so that the treatment center, it's a community style living. So 24 of them at a time, when we get to full capacity, will live in one big, large room. It's a 1,700 square foot room. I mean, it's like a house. So they'll live there together, but when they hit that mark at week 19, they can move over across the hall, and there's an apartment that will sleep 6 of them in there, and they'll have their own bathroom. They'll be able to have a TV. They get their cell phone back at that point, and they can come and go within hours of operation. They'll have more freedom, and they'll be working. And then at that point, we'll be working on housing with them of where they'll go when they leave the program. We're also working with a couple of developers or apartment complex owners that will allow us to rent, the girls to rent the space, but even when they leave with us. So they'll be with us for 6 months is what that 26 weeks is. And then we will keep them in our care for follow-up care for a year if they take a position with one of our community hiring partners.
Yeah, that's a pretty comprehensive wraparound approach that I'm really looking forward to seeing your outcomes and impact around, the first cohort that you get. So if there are folks out there that see this interview and are, possibly looking to come to the program, or possibly maybe a staff person, where should people look to access your program?
So we will actually have resources that will soon be posted on Facebook and on our website at pollinatewv.org. That will give you some guide and instruction if you want to come in as a participant of the program. If you're looking at an employment opportunity, all of our jobs are posted on Indeed under ABHC.
Thank you both for sharing your stories. And again, it's just so inspiring. And then that's what we're trying to do with these series and these interviews, is to inspire others to do good in their community. So thank you, ladies, very much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. And come to the cafe. That's the last plug I would say. That's the way, the opportunity to help. We take volunteers. So if anyone is interested in volunteering, but at the very least, come and eat at any of the social enterprises. Use this for your catering events. When we get the catering kitchen open in October, that's how it helps. It allows the women to practice their customer service and to being back into society, talking, having conversations with people. But it also allows us to show the community that a person in active addiction is very different than someone who is in active recovery. And that's what our overall goal is.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you both for joining us today and sharing all this information. And we will definitely be coming to the cafe.
Great. Thank you guys so much.